Listen closely, because what I'm about to share is a secret Carl Jung discovered in the deepest, most silent corridors of the human psyche. Before we begin, I want you to visualize something. Imagine it's early morning. You step out of your house, ready to face the world. In your pocket, you feel the weight of a heavy, handcrafted leather pouch. But inside, there are no ordinary coins. This pouch is filled with pure, shimmering, raw gold dust. This gold isn't the kind you trade at a bank. Jung called this psychic energy, or libido. This is your raw life force, the fuel behind your creative breakthroughs, the quiet strength in your relationships, the prosperity in your career, and that magnetic spark in your eyes that people can feel but can't quite explain. You walk into the world with this treasure. You step into an elevator or walk into your office, and someone asks that standard, reflexive question. "Hey, how are you? How's that new project of yours?" Without thinking, almost as if you are under a hypnotic spell, you reach into your pocket, pull out that heavy pouch, and throw handfuls of your gold dust at their feet. You do this just to be polite. You do this just to avoid a moment of awkward silence. You are literally scattering your spiritual fuel into the wind for someone who likely won't remember the conversation 10 minutes later. Now, evening comes. You collapse on your couch, feeling a strange, heavy exhaustion. You wonder why that important deal suddenly fell through. You wonder why you just had a bitter, pointless argument with your specific person. You ask yourself why your patience has vanished and why a dark cloud seems to be hanging over your head. This isn't bad luck, and it isn't a coincidence. Carl Jung realized a profound truth. The mouth is the gateway to the soul. If you leave that gate wide open for everyone to walk through, all your internal warmth escapes, and the freezing, chaotic winds of the outside world rush in. Jung taught us that every time we give the wrong answers to the wrong people, we aren't just sharing information, we are handing over our power. Today, we explore 5 powerful techniques to seal your vessel and reclaim your gold. We'll learn why being mysterious isn't a game, it's a survival strategy. And pay attention, because at the end, I will reveal the ticking time bomb that 99% of people carry in their pockets, which destroys their manifestations before they even begin. Our first line of defense is what Jung might call the persona's mist. In practical life, we call this the blurred numbers technique. One of the most dangerous things you can do is give exact figures to people who are not in your inner circle. Jung spoke extensively about a dark impulse in the collective unconscious, the impulse of comparison. When an acquaintance asks, "How much did you really pay for that car?" Don't be naive. They aren't interested in your finances. Their shadow is trying to determine your coordinates in the social hierarchy. They are asking, "Am I winning or are you? Am I above you or below you?" This isn't a conversation. It's a predator sizing up a target. If the number you give is lower than they expected, they instantly devalue you. They think, "Oh, it's just a cheap imitation. He's not as successful as I thought." Your joy in that achievement is now poisoned by their contempt. But if the number is higher than they expected, the monster of envy wakes up. This creates a psychic friction, a silent resentment that can actually sabotage your energy. Jung understood this perfectly. There is a story of a young, ambitious student who visited Jung and asked, "Professor, this book must have cost a fortune. Exactly how much did you pay for it?" Jung didn't get defensive. He took a slow, deliberate draw from his pipe, exhaled a cloud of smoke, creating a literal mist, and gave that legendary, ambiguous smile. He said, "You know, I paid a price that was fair enough to be just, but reasonable enough that I didn't feel ashamed putting it on my shelf." The student was paralyzed. He received a response, but he had no data. He couldn't judge, and he couldn't buy a piece of Jung's success in his mind. Remember, your luck and your prosperity do not like being audited. If you give them a number, you offer them a handle to pull you down. Keep your numbers blurred. Keep your coordinates private. Jung once warned that the podium is the most dangerous place to stand, because the higher you rise, the more eyes are looking for a reason to see you fall. This is the second technique, the bitter prescription. When you experience a major win, perhaps you've finally manifested a breakthrough with your specific person, you naturally want to scream it from the rooftops. You run to your friends and tell them the good news. They smile. They say, "I'm so happy for you." But Jung warns us to ignore the words and watch the micro-expressions. For a split second, you will often see a flash of pain. This isn't because they are evil people. It's because your light is accidentally shining a spotlight on their own failures. Your promotion reminds them they've been stuck in the same position for years. This creates a high-voltage psychic tension, traditionally called the evil eye. Jung called it psychic projection. If you don't ground this electricity, it will eventually shock you, manifesting as sudden bad luck. The bitter prescription is the art of grounding this energy before it hits you. Whenever you share a success, you must immediately attach a bitter pill to the end of the sentence. You must show the cost of your win. Dim your light just enough so it doesn't blind the person in front of you. Human psychology is strange. People will forgive your wealth if they believe you are stressed because of it. They will tolerate your happiness if they know you've suffered to get it. Think of Hans, who built a magnificent villa by the lake. Jung told him, "Hans, if you only show them your chandeliers, they will rot your foundations with envy. You must complain." So, at the housewarming party, when guests gasped at the view, Hans sighed. "It looks nice, doesn't it? But the heating bills are a disaster. We're freezing. The plumbing is ancient, and the mosquitoes make it impossible to sleep. Sometimes I wish I were back in my tiny apartment where things were simple." The guests' envy instantly evaporated. They started patting him on the shoulder, saying, "Poor Hans, big house, big problems." They left his home feeling superior to him rather than envious. And because of that, Hans lived in that palace in absolute peace. Never open all your sails at once. If you don't provide a bitter balance to your success, the breath of others will capsize your ship. There are people in this world who fill their own internal emptiness by feeding on the emotional reactions of others. Jung recognized that certain individuals have a vampiric psychic structure. They don't want your money, they want your reaction. This could be a toxic boss, a relative, or even a specific person who only reaches out when they want to trigger you. Their food is your anger, your tears, or your desperate need to explain yourself. If you react, they win. You have handed them your gold. The gray rock method is the psychological art of becoming invisible in plain sight. Think of a gray, dusty rock on the side of a busy road. You don't kick it. You don't take it home. You just walk past it. When you are faced with a provocateur, You must become that rock. Become the most uninteresting version of yourself. If they insult you, use a gray rock tone. I see. That's an interesting perspective. If they dig into your life, nothing much has changed. Same old routine. You aren't being rude, because rudeness is an emotion. You are being tasteless. You are like dry sand. A vampire bites you, expecting emotional blood, but all they get is a mouth full of dust. They will try to poke you, but eventually they will get bored and move on to a noisier target. As Jung suggested, the greatest punishment for someone trying to control you through drama is your absolute, unwavering indifference. Don't waste your gold on ghosts. This technique is for the people pleasers, those who feel it's a sin to say no. When someone asks you for a favor you don't want to do, you usually say no, but then you immediately attach a giant, heavy because to it. Jung tells us that the moment you offer an excuse, you have lost your power. Why? Because an excuse is actually a hidden plea for permission. You are essentially asking, is my reason good enough for you to allow me to say no? You have descended from the judge's chair and placed yourself in the witness stand, waiting for their verdict. Worse yet, excuses invite manipulation. If you say you can't come because your car is broken, they will say, "Don't worry, I'll pick you up." Now you are trapped. The no excuse refusal is a tool of liberation. Remember, no is a complete sentence. There was a man named Mark who lived in a beautiful house by the coast. He wanted peace, but his relatives constantly treated his home like a free hotel. Finally, Mark tried Jung's principle. A cousin called. "Mark, we're coming down this weekend. Get the grill ready." Mark took a deep breath and said, "This weekend doesn't work for me. I am not available to host you." The cousin was shocked. "Why? Are you sick?" Mark stayed firm. "I'm perfectly fine. It's just not a good time for me. I have other plans." His plans were simply to sit in his backyard in silence. Because he gave no excuse, there was no hole for the cousin to crawl through. Mark reclaimed his sanctuary. He stopped being a victim of his own politeness. Do not explain your boundaries. If you have to justify your no, it isn't a boundary, it's a suggestion. Finally, we must talk about the most dangerous object in your life, the ticking time bomb you carry in your pocket, oversharing. In alchemy, which Jung studied for decades, there was one golden rule. The vessel must be sealed. If you open the lid before the process is finished, the heat escapes and the magic is ruined. We have a disease where we feel the need to share our lives before we have even lived them. You finally get a text from your specific person, and before you've even processed the emotion, you're sending screenshots to friends. You decide to lose weight, and you announce it to the world before you've even stepped foot in a gym. Jungian law is clear. The seed germinates in the dark. If you dig up a seed 5 minutes after planting it, just to show people if it's growing, you have killed that seed. It needs the silence and the pressure of the earth to transform. When you share your dreams before they are harvested, your brain receives the likes, releases dopamine, and tricks itself into thinking you've already achieved the goal. You lose the hunger and the raw energy needed to actually do the hard work. Furthermore, you invite the subconscious fears and envy of hundreds of strangers into your fragile process. You are letting their cold winds blow out your sacred fire. The rule for a powerful life is simple. Only show what is in the warehouse. Do not talk about what you will do. Talk about what you have done. If the house is built and you've lived in it for a year, show the fireplace. If the relationship is stable and healthy, share the joy. But until the harvest is in the barn, keep the gate closed. A full barrel makes no noise. It is the empty tin can that rattles. The universe loves creative silence. Guard your happiness like a priest guards a sacred flame. Do not let the tourists in. If this exploration of Carl Jung's wisdom resonated with you, subscribe and join our journey. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had a plan fall apart right after you told everyone about it? Share your story so others can see how this law works. May the power of silence be with you. Until next time, stay grounded. Keep your gold.